what I'm doing this morning is looking up every word for tongue in the Bible. And I'm going to use the King James Version, and I'll show you why. And what the word tongue, how it was used back in the 1600s when the King James was written, and then versus, how has the interpretation of what we think today the word tongue means. So I'm looking these all up. So in John 2, it says, in the Hebrew tongue. Now, that says that it is this word, Hebrew, and it goes down to in the Jewish language. Well, let's look on 446 down here in Hebrew language. It goes down to 443. And then it's going on to tell you where the Hebrew came into it. So that's just one instance. So let's go back. Now we're coming down to Acts 1:19. And we have the Greek word 1258. So we're going to come over here and we're going to read, and we're going to call it, field is called in their proper tongue. That's what they called it. So tongue is a language, a dialect, something known in the world that people speak for communication. Okay? So let's go back. Then we go, and it's the same, in my tongue up here is, tongue means language. My tongue, my language, my dialect. This is how King James interprets tongue in 1600s. Let's go back. Now here's an interesting one. This is in Acts 22:2. It's when they heard that he spoke in the Hebrew tongue. They separate the words. So we got 1446, and that's going to probably mean the origin of where the Hebrews came from. Okay. And then tongue, we're back to the word language, dialect, spoken words, communication between people. Not something that's not known. Okay, let's go back. So, so you can look through all of these. An unknown, so in Corinthians 14:12, they spoke in an unknown what? Tongue, language. By implication, a language. Okay? Dialect. So throughout the whole New Testament, tongue is generally the word here that is, where is it? Let me pull it up here. Is the G1100, which means language, tongue, spoken language. They had to speak somehow. They had languages. They were from all over that came to Israel for the Pentecost feast, but they came from all over. They came from way up north. Each area has some dialects, some language that they speak. Spain speaks Spanish. France speaks French, and so on and so forth. So each area has a speakable language that they communicate with each people with in that area. But then they get down to Pentecost, and if they were born and raised up there, they didn't know any other dialect other than theirs. So what happened was the Holy Spirit came upon the disciples, and the disciples, unknown to them, just miraculously started speaking, let's say, French or German or whatever. I'm not that those were there at the time. That's what I'm getting at. But just in their dialect, so they could understand. And they could take that message of Peter's preaching back to their hometowns. And that's how some of these churches got started. There was, when the church in Rome was started, it was not started by an apostle. It was started by someone else. That's why Paul had to go to Rome. Peter was not in Rome. Peter did not establish that church in Rome, because Paul says, I would not go someplace and try to establish on top of the foundation that one of the other apostles had laid. So Paul wants to go to Rome. All this time from the crucifixion and Pentecost till the time that Paul wrote to the Romans, there was a church in Rome, and they were doing pretty good. But Paul still wanted to go and lay down an apostle, because see, remember, the apostles laid the foundation. Jesus is the cornerstone. But when the church starts, it's laid on the foundation of the apostles. The apostles were to spread the word, and that was the foundation, and you only need to lay it once. So they had laid a foundation, but Paul wanted to go back into Rome to make sure that they knew exactly what that foundation was and make sure that they were 100% correct. But they were doing okay. So anyway, back to this. Back to wherever I was. Okay. So as we move on, if we go to Revelation, and Peter did it one other time. I saw it somewhere, but anyway, we'll go to Revelation. Well, he did it right there in that one too, but hang on with me. Revelation 9. Okay, what does it say? It says, and they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue. Well, right there, it's a Hebrew tongue. It's a Hebrew language, and that name was Abaddon. But in the Greek tongue, the Greek what? The language? Anything that nobody understood? No. The Greek language, the name was Apollyon. So this is what I'm trying to figure out in my own mind and share, that I can't find anywhere in the New Testament that the word tongue means anything other than a known language. If somebody can find that for me, I'd love to be enlightened. But, when you get over to the other translations, it uses tongues throughout the word, this. And as time came, and today, when we read this, as I think we did, we're assuming that this tongue is something unknown language that people are out there saying, like the charismatic. I can't understand what they're saying. I don't know that they know what they're saying. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. I don't know. But anyway, what I'm saying is, and I don't mean to be down on anything. I'm just trying to understand that how we see language today as written in the Bible, when we interpret it, we have to go to the Greek and the Hebrew to see what it meant at the time that it was written. Okay, at the time it was written, they were speaking unknown tongues, languages, dialect, and not something that was not known. I can't find anywhere that it lists a tongue in anything other than a dialect or a language. To be continued.